Welcome back, my elegant warriors. Today is a very special day because I love when I have someone that I have a deep and real friendship with on as a guest at the podcast. And today that is exactly what I have. And we have the pleasure of hearing from Stacy Fritz. Stacy is the president and CEO of Fit to Order, which is a corporate wellness company that is women owned and it is in its 16th, that's 1/6
Yeah.
year, which is very unusual and very special, especially for women owned businesses. She's a keynote speaker. That's how we met. We were doing some keynote speaking work together. She is a certified in group fitness. She is a 10-time marathoner. She is a triathlete. And really, most exciting and most important for our conversation today, she is the inventor of something called vidaBALL. You can find vidaBALL at thevidaball.com. And vidaBALL is a portable, amazing, stress reducing breath exerciser that Stacy will
Perfect.
better be able to explain. Welcome, Stacy, to the podcast.
Oh, Heather, thank you so much. I'm, as I shared, I'm so excited to be here with you. What's better than having a girl chat live?
I know, and we were just chatting before we started, and we could honestly chat all day.
True.
And I want to let the audience in on some of our chat because the Vita Ball to me is so special in so many ways. So before I get into all my questions about it, will you just tell the listeners what it is in
Yes.
general?
Yes. So the vidaBALL is a handheld device that was designed to help manage daily stress and anxiety using breath exercises. So it's a way to show you how to take a better breath.
You have one behind you. So some
I
of the people
do.
are watching on YouTube. For
I
those
do.
not watching, we'll describe it. It is
Yeah.
a small ball. It's like the size of a little bigger than a softball.
Yep. Exactly.
Um, and the top half lights up. Right now, it is lit up blue.
This is idle. Yes, this color is idle.
Okay. And then, so you explain to us how it works and talk us through it for the listeners.
Sure. So the vidaBALL, when it sits idle, there's a power, there's only two buttons here. There's a power and then there's a mode button. So when I turn it on, I designed it to be a beautiful piece of desk art, this beautiful blue that just kind of pulses. And so my hope was it's sitting on your desk and you could just kind of glance over it and just see a relaxing color, right? But we know that at work and in other areas of our life, we might need a moment of calm. So the second button is this button that kind of looks like this, and it is a mode button. And so what happens is it's 5 different colors, and each of those colors represents a different breath technique. What I mean by that is we utilize different breath exercises in order to invoke whatever it is that we're trying to invoke, whether or not we want energy. In this case, the majority of these modes are to find relaxation, which is really hard as a culture to kind of bring it down a notch. And so it's a complement to teach you in a way that without words gives you some feedback via vibration and light and a little tiny bit of buzzing hum that will kind of guide you towards the inhales and then the exhales using the holding on to the ball.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I am into breath exercises, especially recently. I've sort of gotten more back into it. I used to be really love the breath of fire at yoga. I
Oh,
loved it.
that's one
Um,
of them. It's
oh,
one of them.
is
Yeah,
it
yeah,
one of
yeah,
them on there?
yeah,
But the
yeah.
breath of fire is more energizing, right?
Yes, yes.
And so you can dive deep into the breath work. I actually was working with my membership on this the other day because what you're talking about, the majority of the exercises there are for the parasympathetic nervous system,
Correct,
which
correct.
slows things down,
Right.
as opposed to the sympathetic nervous system that speeds things up. And I
Yeah,
love that the Vita Ball has room for both because there are
yes,
times you're in your office and you're feeling sort of blah and you want to take a nap. And so then you would need to turn the Vita Ball on and have it do one of the more energizing. And
right.
then other times when you're nervous, anxious, upset, and you want to calm down. Now
I'm
you,
smiling because I never get a chance to talk with people that are really well versed on it. And you've nailed it. The inhales represent our energy and our exhales represent our relaxation response. And there is validity. There's two things, Heather, that I don't think that people really recognize the value of this tool that was given to us at birth that we can use before. It's like your front line for better health that we just dismiss because it's something that we do every day. But unfortunately, it's something that most people, not all, do every day, but don't do it to its full capacity. I don't want to be critical, but as a culture, we are shallow breathers and we don't take advantage of all the benefits of beautiful breath work. And it's fast and it's natural and it's something that you can, once you learn it, you can't unlearn it, and you spend your time tapping into that before you start tapping into other external sources, I believe.
Yeah, I love that. I love, when you just mentioned that to slow things down, you want to take the exhales. And I
Right.
think that so often when you're a little kid and as you get older, people say, take a deep breath. And it's really
Mm,
not take a deep breath, it's give a deep breath, right?
exactly. I
Yeah.
breathe your breath in a way that if somebody told you that this one thing, you could lower your blood pressure, you could calm yourself down, you could find a sense of peace and calm. It doesn't cost you anything. It's free, it's easy to use. I mean, how many people do you know would be like, oh, it's me? And then you turn around and you say, that is your breath.
Yeah.
I think it's as simplistic as it is, I think it's really over, people don't quite understand exactly how powerful tapping into the breath can be, which is exciting because I think as I would think you would agree right now, especially with our youth, with the amount of challenges that we have for mental fitness. I think we could all use a pause to really come back to a foundational piece like the breath.
That is a beautiful segue to the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which
Mm,
is why I think the vidaBALL fills a vacuum that is so necessary to
yeah,
fill. And that is the fact that it's not tied to your phone.
right.
It gives me goosebumps because I love to do breath work, and there's apps for breath work, there's meditations for breath work, and they're all on my darn phone.
Yes,
And I struggle with this so much, Stacy. I was listening to a manifestation
yeah,
podcast the other day, and there was a gentleman who was saying that if in the morning before you even get out of bed, you should meditate and
right.
listen to these mantras. And I'm like, where are you I was like yelling at the host, ask him where he's getting them,
Right.
because and they're saying, don't get on your phone, meditate first. But
How do you
it's
get them?
really exactly. And
Yeah,
it's asking a lot to tell someone, turn on your phone, because I
right.
try to do this, right? Turn on your phone, go to the meditation app, but don't look at the text that came in. Don't look at the emails that are there
That's a
waiting.
lot of steps, right? That's a lot of temptation just to get there. You're so funny too, because if I told you, I should probably start making a list for somewhere down the line for a speech, because I will talk about the vidaBALL and inevitably somebody will say, is there an app? And I'll say, is there an app that, and immediately it's like, you missed the whole bigger point. I get that the wave of the future, everything's got to be technology efficient and whatnot, but this was truly intentional. Even the engineer that I hired to create that first prototype is like, in the second layer of this, we'll get we'll get an app to go along with it, and talk about advocating for myself. This is a huge argument why this is a hard no for me. This product will not have an app to it. It will not. I mean, I have a whole library online that has meditations. Once people get really good at breath work, then take it from there. But to your point about meditation, I don't think people realize that step one, and me as a continued yoga instructor, for me to walk into a class and teach a meditation feels a bit not authentic. Why? Because the precursor to good meditative habits is understanding the power of your breath, to use that as a vehicle to enjoy a really good meditation. So we skipped a whole layer by the time we're teaching it. And it's catching on. People do breath work, but they feel very separate for me. And what I'm saying is
Mhm.
nail the breath work independent of an app or a guided meditation or a guided visual or whatever works for you. Learn how to use your breath solo.
Yep.
So
And the best way to do it is vidaBALL. I don't say that because you're my friend. I don't say that. I say
thank
that
you.
because it is true. You can keep the vidaBALL on your nightstand. You can
You
turn it
can.
off so the light doesn't shine while you're
Right.
sleeping. And
Right.
then you can get up in the morning. You don't get out of bed. You grab the vidaBALL. You can close your eyes and it will vibrate and lead you through the breathing. There's the exercises, I believe, tell you how to do the breathing
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
various things.
Yeah.
It is the best thing ever. A
Thank you.
child can have it in their room as a nightlight. And then in the morning before they start the day, they can do exercises.
Agreed.
It is. And, you know, as you said, our young people, our teenagers are spending so much time on their phone, and to ask them to go to their phone for breathing exercises, but not get distracted by the very things that we adults can't help but get distracted by, it's unrealistic.
Is so unrealistic. And the other part is when we're staring at a screen, that's a whole other conversation with the blue light, and pushing us. When you immediately when you turn on that phone, it brings in the sympathetic response. It's automatically an energizer. So if you are somebody who's trying to wind down, to ask somebody to not look at something, even beyond just tapping into another place, we've signaled the brain to get into an energizing mode. And so it's really hard to, that's confusing, right? And so what I would say about that is I love the idea of sitting up, doing a little gratitude, and then taking a few of that very first breath technique that's introduced, the white color, which is a balanced breathing. Balanced breathing is what I would call a category of water breathing. It's just a silly way for people to remember, when should you be drinking water? Water is good anytime during the course of the day. So calling it a water category of breathing, you can use it anytime during the course of the day. Whereas, like, say, for example, the third breath technique is 4-7-8 breathing. And that is really good. I put that in the category of wine or whiskey, a way to bring you down, a way to calm down in a healthy way, right? And then, you know, so it's just, it's an interesting, I think it's an interesting way of starting your day. And then I think it's a really interesting way to end your day, to give the brain a signal like it's time to shut it down or it's time to turn it up.
Without a darn phone.
Yeah.
Can you, just so that the listeners are probably like, well, give me some breathing to do. So
Mm-hmm.
can you talk us through, let's start with the first one, the water slash
The
balance
water
breathing.
category breathing. And you know what I'll do after this? I made real-time videos. There's 3 categories of breath techniques that I like to clump them in. It's the way I learned as a breath coach. The water category is good for any time of the day. It's balance. It's up regulating if you want to be energized, and then it's down regulating if you want it to be calm. The second category is going to be the whiskey or the wine. That's more of the really bring it down. And then the one that I don't spend a ton of time on, just because most of us don't have a problem becoming agitated or energized or whatnot, is the coffee category. So I'm going to teach you one, and then I'm going to give you the links to the other ones so your listeners can enjoy. So a water category breath would be a balanced breathing. So feet flat on the floor, eyes are closed, jaw is soft, softening where we want to soften. And then we'll take an inhale on the count of 4. So we'll inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Immediately exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 4, 3, 2, 1. One more time. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. And you would do about 5 cycles of that. And literally, Heather, I have yet to meet the person, if we're really engaged, we're talking like 5, 6, 7 rounds of it, and automatically the body is like, whoa, you know, and you will feel a shift.
Yeah.
My favorite one, I have to say, though, is the 4-7-8 for my ladies, especially ladies who really struggle with going to sleep. Being able to tap into an inhale for 4, hold your breath for 7, and an exhale for 8, and you do rounds using your fingers, even if you didn't want to use the vidaBALL. I think that that puts us in such a state to be sleep ready before we start engaging in other external things to help.
Like wine and drugs and all the things that all of my friends, last night I couldn't sleep. I fell asleep and then I woke up, and here's the thing. It didn't occur to me to breathe. I mean, maybe it eventually did. That might actually be how I fell asleep. And I'm aware of breath exercises.
Mm,
And I also still sometimes say, well, that's not going to work, or I don't feel like it, which is I don't feel like breathing. It's so
yeah, it's
ridiculous.
so
Do
funny.
you know why we do that?
Well, I think that as a society, I think that we are, to your point, I think that we give away our power because being bombarded by noise, external information, if we must do that in order to achieve this. And I, you know, forever and a day, I've been a instructor for fitness, and I used to teach this boot camp class. And I watch now as the youngins are coming in behind me, and I really sit back with it, because if you really look at exercise in its truest nature, there's really only foundational pieces. And as long as you can master things like, I'm getting a little off tangent here, but as long as you can master things like the squat and the lunge and the push up, the push and the pull, it's very simplistic. And we can continue to try to complicate things, thinking that, oh my gosh, if I do this another way, I will be able to achieve whatever I'm trying to achieve. I kind of clump breath techniques into that same category as the boot camp exercises. Can we please just get back down to basics? Eat really clean food, do really solid research-based exercise, do really solid research-based breath techniques, and coming back to self, like our Marianne Williams said, coming back and going in as opposed to going out, for me has been the 50s. I really have stopped with the reaching and the grasping and looking for the next best thing and trying to tap into what I've already have, you know? And I think it's less expensive, and I think it's more organic, and I think it's a way that honors the way we were supposed to live, breathe, move.
You are giving me the goosebumps.
Mm,
I can't tell you how much this resonates with me. One of the
mm.
things, I have the Building Belief Academy, and it's a
Yes, you
membership.
do.
And
Oh,
but one of the things that I say in there all the time about every topic, but breathing is a perfect example. I am not your authority. You are I am an expert in some things, just like you're an expert on breathing, but we are the authority. We don't need to look outside to
we
figure out
don't.
how to use these breath exercises, especially with the benefit of the vidaBALL. And this is not an
Mm,
ad, it's just me
yeah.
reminding you that it's there. But I could not agree with you more that as I get older, and also, early in my 50s as well, that I recognize that there's no one coming to save me,
Mm-mm.
and that's good news
Yeah,
because I have everything I need to save myself. And
100%.
every one of you listening, that is the case for you. You have everything you need and access to things you need. So you might not know anything about breathing, but now you have access to, Stacey's going to give you these exercises for free. You don't
Yeah.
need to buy the vidaBALL. It's just a wonderful tool to help you to use these exercises. And it's a great reminder. I'm getting
Mm,
one, as you know. I'm
mm,
actually, now that we're talking about it, I'm going to get them for my nieces and nephew as well. But to have at the bedside to
yeah.
remind you, like last night when I couldn't sleep, had I had the vidaBALL, it would have gotten me there faster than tossing and turning and thinking, should I take something? I don't take, like, I take an herb thing, but
Mm.
even that, it's sort of, do I really want to do that? And so the breathing is really
And
the
could
answer.
you replace the, I don't know if you're guilty of this, but, and I make the excuse that because I have children, that I need to have that cell phone by my bedside, because God forbid I miss whatever, right? My feeling is, could we replace the cell phone and put the vidaBALL there, even if it is off, for somebody that's light distracted and whatnot. But I do think that your academy is a fabulous way for, especially for us women, to remind ourselves that, remember from my keynote, I love that statement from Glinda the Good Witch. You had it all along. You have everything you need. You are the tour guide. Heather's the tour guide for this academy. I'm the, for example, that's what I say in when I first start teaching a yoga class. I am not your expert. What I am is your tour guide to this exploration of self. What happens on the four corners of your mat? It's not what it looks like. It's what it feels like inside. And
Yes.
so why, and I think, to answer your question, I think that we give it away because we don't trust ourselves. I think that we've been conditioned to believe that somebody knows better for us. And forgive me for, again, taking a sidebar here. Where I see it the most, and it makes me incredibly sad, is my service part of my work when I work with patients.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a patient advocate for a lovely nonprofit organization that bridges the gap between conventional medicine, traditional medicine, and then complementary or alternative medicine. And you want to find somebody who often, immediately upon diagnosis, just gives the power away, and automatically everybody becomes the expert on you because you've been given this label. That makes me very sad, because as an advocate, I know you do this as your heart work too. How do you teach somebody to say, just because somebody said something to you does not then make them the expert? They may be, or the expert on you. They may be
That's
the
right.
expert in their field,
That's right.
but it is up to you to advocate for how you want this to go down. So even beyond just a day-to-day in business and in life, what scares me is when it gets really complicated and chaotic, like a cancer diagnosis, and then all of a sudden it's like paralyzed. And to me, that's my work there is, oh, no, no, no. We're going to do all the things. And my job is to not tell you what to do. My job is to give you the tools to be able to say, you speak up. You don't like the way that sounds. You either second opinion it or you challenge it. And you do so in a way that is healing and honoring self. So for your listeners, I guess if somebody were to ask my opinion is, don't wait for the shoe to fall. Get it going now, because later on down the road, advocating becomes sometimes you get yourself into a place. I know it sounds harsh, but it's your life.
Without a doubt. And I love, you're so right that we don't trust ourselves. Like that's a lot of the work that I do with people is let's look at the evidence for all the reasons that we know that you should and
Yes,
could. I don't like the word should, that you could trust yourself.
right,
All of the things that prove that you have done so in the past and it has worked for you.
right.
I could talk to you about this forever. I have a question about breathing and then
Yep,
I want to talk about you've mentioned the cancer and the work that you do and I want to talk about why and I
yes,
want to talk about the why behind vidaBALL a little more.
yes,
But
yes.
before we do, I do have a question, and I think that this is also one of the things where you're the authority on your own body. But I have read the book Breathe by James Nastor. I think that's his last name, and he's a huge proponent of nose breathing
Mm-hmm,
and only breathe through your nose. And
mm-hmm,
then some of the breath exercises that I have learned to say when you do the out breath, it should be through your mouth.
mm-hmm.
Do you have an
I
opinion?
do.
Tell
I
me.
do. I do. So as always, most of my answers when it comes to an opinion on strategy is always the word it depends, because I think we're all unique. So the theory is that the nose is for breathing and the mouth is for eating.
Mm-hmm.
Now we know that that's not the case for people who have a cold or deviated septum. So I think again it goes back to the way I like to teach. This is the theory behind it. Now, the practical approach says, where do you find comfort? Now, I'm going to teach you a really cool way to kind of assess that for yourself. Our nostrils are quite different, right, on both sides. And most people don't bother to try to close off if you have ever tried alternate nostril breathing,
Mm-hmm.
right, where we're tapping into one side. Each of the sides of our nose is responsible for a part of the nervous system, right? So if you close off your right nostril and you inhale through your nose, now take your exhale. Now do the other side. You typically, not always, but might be able to find the air flows freer during one side or the other.
Yeah.
The right side represents your sympathetic nervous system, and your left side represents your parasympathetic. So now we get into interesting parts. What do you want to manipulate? What are you trying to do? So there are techniques that we can do. My point is about nose to mouth breathing, that we want it as much as we can. Once we've identified, maybe one side is really clogged up. That's interesting information for me. That would be a good argument to start a mouth exhale, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if there is a goal to be had, which there's not, but if there was a goal to be had, I would say efficiency and manipulating the nervous system is best when we tap into inhales and exhales through the nose. Now you can see how the layers kind of trickle down after that.
That actually feels best for me. And
Mm,
so that makes me happy because when I do some of the exercises and they say to breathe out through my mouth, it turns me off, which is yet another reason to use the vidaBALL instead of
mm,
listening to someone in my ear telling me
yeah,
how to breathe.
right.
Let's talk about your brother
Yeah,
and the vidaBALL. Tell
yeah.
the listeners that story.
Yes. So I am one of two children. I have a brother, Brad. He is 3 years younger than I am, and he passed away a couple of years ago. My brother and I continue to have a celestial sibling relationship, but my brother was my very best friend. He and my husband were close. We are a very close knit family. And so my brother was diagnosed at quite a young age, 46, with a pretty terrible, not a pretty terrible, a really lousy diagnosis of stage 4 advanced colon cancer. And so I had the opportunity to travel that journey with him quite closely. And my brother was actually the inspiration behind the creation of the product, because my brother's diagnosis involved a lot of anxiety, a lot of pain, and I was trying desperately to teach him ways that he could kind of handle that on his own. He was quite opposed to using pain medication. My brother was a pilot, and we always believed that he was going to go back to flying. And as you can imagine, the strict regulations. So he was trying to do a lot of things naturally in hopes of getting back to flying, but he just couldn't get the hang of the breath technique portion of it. So about 2 months before he passed away, Heather, people are like, did that really happen? It really happened this way. I sat up in bed. I was at his house, 3 kids, and I was helping caretake. And I woke up in the middle of the night. I'm like, oh my gosh, what if there's like, it was just like this really vivid dream. What if there was this like way to teach him with something? And that was the beginning inspiration to creating the vidaBALL. I originally, once he, I had told him about it, we named it the breath bubble. So before he passed away, it was the breath bubble. And then after he passed away, we changed the name to the vidaBALL. He didn't get a chance to see the end product, but I feel quite solid about how he knew. So yeah. And so now, as you know, it just 3.5 years later, talk about a labor of love. I just got the first shipment. Took me 3.5 years to create it. And I hope that it does things, goes to work for people like my brother. That is absolutely one audience for this new product, is to be in every single infusion center to help people who are on the cancer journey manage pain and anxiety using something natural.
Makes me teary. Are you
Yeah.
comfortable sharing the story of how you know he knew?
Oh, which one? The one
The one
about
we
the
were
sunflower
talking.
scent, the
Yeah.
sunflower. So Heather and I were speaking about, I am a huge advocate and believer in signs. And I think that they show up in all different ways. But I often, especially in my yoga background, not in my professional corporate wellness background, will get questions, and we'll talk a lot about being able to receive information that doesn't look so in this realm. And I've always believed that, but I struggle with the explanation of that. So around the holiday time, I was in Trader Joe's. Little back information: my brother called me Daisy because he couldn't say the name Stacy when he was a kid. So I continued to be Daisy for my family. And then I have a big passion for sunflowers. So those two things were pretty front and center when, my whole life, when Brad and whatnot. The other thing is that I love number combinations, and my brother would tease me because I love the number, a triple number 1, right? Which is the divine sign for the universe has your back and you're good and whatnot. So I love that number combination, which he absolutely knew too. So I go to Trader Joe's at Christmas time, and I'm having what we would call a day. It's just stressful trying to get the vidaBALL here. And I'm going through the line, and the clerk hands me the receipt. And I look down, and he says it first, and he says, "You ought to play the lottery." And I said, "Why do you say that?" And I look down, and it's 5 number 1s in a row. And so I start laughing, and I said, "Nah, that's not a lottery. That's just my brother saying, hey." And I immediately, when I said, I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I just say that? So kooky, or it just was weird. And he says, he said, "A customer before you said for me to give somebody this thing if they look like they might need a hug today." And he turns around and he hands me a sunflower wrapper covered piece of chocolate. So I got the number combination, and then I got the sunflower sign. And as I was sharing with you, nobody else needs to care about that, but except for me. There is no way that would have lined up without a connection with my brother. There's just no way. There's no way.
Absolutely no
It was
way.
fabulous. It has carried me for months, knowing that he was just right there.
And right there behind, the steps that you had to take
Yes.
to bring vidaBALL from your brain to our hands were no small thing. We're running a little short on time,
Yeah.
but I
Yep.
do
Yep.
want
Yep.
to talk to you. I do want to ask you about, tell us about what it was like. One of the last questions I end with is, what's the last thing you advocated for? And if that's a
Mm,
different answer, then we can go there. But
mm.
what was it like advocating for the vidaBALL, advocating to make it a reality? And
Mm.
now you need to advocate in a different way to get people to know about it and to bring it into their homes. So
I
tell us about that.
love the question. I'm going to answer it short and simple. You know what? Advocating for this vidaBALL, and I've never been an inventor before. This was my first rodeo. I'm pretty positive that if I had asked the question before I got started, I'm not sure I would have started this because it was so challenging. But advocating for this vidaBALL that was not the hard part, because when you create something in service of somebody else, you know who we love, AJ Harper, and she says, I didn't create the book about something, I created it for someone. I almost feel like I want to use the same statement. I didn't create the vidaBALL for something. I didn't. I created the vidaBALL for someone. And it
Mhm.
shifts everything. It shifts everything, because the times that I was frustrated, don't get me wrong, 3.5 years is a really long time to stay with something, right?
Yeah.
But to me, it was a no-brainer, because I was never, ever gonna quit or say no, because I just had him in mind. I just had him in mind. And even though he's not here on this plane, the creation and innovation mirrored the stages of grief. And I think I put my grief to work in creating this product. That's what I think.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And now the advocating changes a little, right? And so it seems, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like at this stage, it's so interesting, Stacy, because in creating it and all the ways you had to advocate to create it and make it come to life, you were thinking of your brother and not yourself.
Mm,
And in advocating, that is makes it so much easier. And
so much
then
easier.
now it seems as though if you think about the people who it will impact and
Yeah.
not yourself, it's going to make it easier to market and sell.
Mm,
Um, because if you were constantly thinking this is going to make me famous or
mm,
rich or anything like that, it makes it so much harder. So for the listener, the way that this applies to you is, no matter what it is that you're advocating for, how can you make it about something outside of yourself? In my book, The Advocate to Win, I talk about externalizing things. If it's
mm,
an idea, make it something outside of yourself, even if it's not an idea for your product. If it's a service, make it advocating for the person who's receiving the service instead of yourself giving the service. When
mm,
you flip that switch, it becomes easier. And to stay with our little bit of woo today, the
mm,
universe rises up to meet you when you're
mm,
advocating that way. And I know that's going to happen and continue to happen with the vidaBALL, that you will see all kinds of opportunities happen, all kinds of serendipities and synchronicities,
mm.
because this comes from such a fabulous energy.
And if you're in that flow state where you really believe all that you just said, I am not attached to any of the outcomes. What I am is, I am excited to see how the product change has the possibility to change a life, to bring peace where there wasn't, or to inspire somebody else. When people lose people all the time, Heather,
Yeah.
my story is not unique, but I have to say that doing what you and I did together and working our speech writing and our keynoting, getting out of the comfort zone and doing something that I didn't have any experience with it. I mean, like I said, if there's anybody listening on here is like, I really want to invent something, but I don't know what I'm doing. I am telling you, if I can do it, I know that anybody can do it, because I literally have zero experience with taking something from ideation to production to manufacturing and all the things that, now I know how to sell stuff very well,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't feel like this product, I feel like the product will, I don't even like the word sell for the vidaBALL, serving in a way where there's an exchange. I'm not, I'm not, would never be false in saying that I don't want the vidaBALL to go to work, but I want it to go to work in a way that feels true. And then I hope that, and you'll see when you get yours that I put a little note in there for me. I hope the ripple effect is that nobody ever, and this makes me teary-eyed, I don't ever want to forget my brother. I want him to come along with me. And I hope that anybody who has ever had that experience of loving somebody and losing them this way can find a moment of calm, a better breath to just sit and remember and to hold our loved ones in an appropriate way that honors them and honors their legacy. My brother was that fabulous.
You are that fabulous. Before I let you go, I
Yeah.
do want to end with those three questions.
Yes.
I still want to ask you, what's the last thing you advocated for? Because it might be something different than the vidaBALL, and I don't want to just assume.
So it probably is related to the vidaBALL. There was a ton of advocating because, see, I don't even know if it's appropriate to say. There were quite a few gentlemen in this process, and I still feel like, is that okay to say?
Yeah. I think it's funny.
I still feel like, because I was solid on the journey of this, I felt at certain points in time like I was a novice at this and that it was extremely dismissed and that I really had to work hard to step out of the role of feeling like there was judgment there.
Yeah. Tell us, what book would you recommend for the listeners?
So I have two. The one on a personal level is Four Agreements. That's like my life study book. I could go back and read that over and over again because I think those four agreements are just everything.
Yep.
They just think that they encompass everything that I want to be, your word, elegant, the simplistic nature of living a life that's authentic and true and being able to put my head down on the pillow at night and just know that, damn it, she did a great job. She tried really hard at those four things. But in business, I still come back to my business Bible, which is Traction by Gino Wickman. And I still say it falls in line with your elegant theme of being an elegant warrior in a way that makes true sense. It's a framework in which to run your business where you don't get caught up in the fluff. And I am guilty of getting caught up in the fluff, the shiny penny, wanting to do something that, is out. As long as I come back to those core foundational pieces, I think that's elegance. You know what I mean? Like being able to remind yourself that simple is better. It is for me anyway, that getting lost in details is where I struggle.
Yeah. I'm struggling with my dog. Hold on one second.
No, bring her up.
Oh my gosh, she's barking. I don't
He
understand.
loves you because he wants your attention.
I guess.
That's what I'm advocating for. Let me just say this. I told you a non-truth. I just realized when you picked up your puppy, I am advocating for a new dog with my husband.
Oh boy, you'll have to keep me posted on that.
I will.
That's a tough one, but
Yeah.
I love it. It's a great example of, people hire me to help them get promotions, jobs, raises, founders to get investment money, all the things. And then oftentimes it's like, I want my husband to get a dog, help.
Yeah.
I want.
And I have to say, it is very challenging to advocating for the dog.
Oh, it's worse. It's much harder.
Yes.
Let's end with my favorite question. Your answer to this question will go to the Elegant Warrior Spotify playlist. What is your theme song, Stacy Fritz?
Oh, and I had two that I'm going to say two of them because I couldn't
choose.
pick. Okay.
Good.
One is gonna make you laugh and the other one is going to be like, Don't Stop Believing by Journey was one of my brother and my songs. And I have a video about a year before he passed away of he and I in the car and his kids were in the back seat and we were singing Don't Stop Believing, right? And I just love that song. I think that don't stop believing. It's like, don't stop advocating. I love that. But when I'm in my my gangster mode and I'm teaching a wicked psycho class, I love Lose Yourself by Eminem because it is the true seize the moment. I guess you could say, back to you, bat it back to you, with advocating for yourself. Eminem to me, as harsh as he is, I just think that song is one of my theme songs.
I love it. And you know, I love you. And I'm
I
so
love
glad you came
you.
on. We will have links to the exercises that you shared. We will
Yes, I will
have
send you
links
those.
for people to get the vidaBALL.
Mhm.
And we will keep people posted. I will let you
Heather,
know
I
what's
had the
going on.
best time. I'm so happy for you, and you're just doing amazing things. So thank you for having me.